Megha MS, and I'm delivering this presentation as part of my assignment titled Corporate Ethics and Malfesance for the course Data 2202 Ethical Leadership and Critical Decision Making. In today's presentation, I'll be discussing corporate ethics and malfeasance, focusing on a case study involving corporate misconduct. This case study will illustrate the significance of ethical decision making in business and explore the challenges faced by organization when ethical lapses occur. So let me first talk about corporate ethics. Corporate ethics refers to the principles, values, and standards that guide the behavior of individuals and organizations in the business world. It involves making decisions that align with moral principles, legal standards, and social expectations. Malfeasance, on the other hand, refers to the performance of illegal or wrongful acts, particularly by individuals in the position of authority. Malfeasance can result in significant harm to individuals, organizations, and society at large, which leads to breach of trust, legal consequences, and reputational damage. So, according to Dr. Michael K. Jones in his book, 2020 book, Ethics in Business, the moral compass, ethical business practices are fundamental to corporate sustainability and long-term success. He emphasizes that companies that prioritize ethics tend to have stronger employee commitment and consumer trust. In this assignment, we'll explore the ethical and legal issues within a corporate scenario, analyze the alternative actions an ethical leader might take, and also examine the organization causes of these issues and propose preventive measures to avoid similar ethical dilemmas in the future. Through this examination, we can gain insights into the critical role of leadership in shaping ethical behavior within organizations. Let's talk about ethical and legal issues further with respect to the case study. Let's begin by addressing the health and safety issues within the case study. So this scenario involves a company called Auto Parts Corporation, APC, a major manufacturer of automotive parts. The company operates in a large factory where workers are exposed to unsafe working conditions, leading to frequent accidents and injuries. So the legal issue number one is workers' compensation law. The company's failure to provide a safe working environment violates several key provisions under worker compensation laws. So these laws are designed to protect workers from the risk associated with their jobs and ensure that they are adequately compensated in the event of an accident or injury. In Ontario, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, OHSA, mandates that employers must provide a safe and healthy workplace. Failure to comply with this law can result in legal liability for the company and can lead to significant penalties, including civil lawsuits, fines, and even criminal charges. The Ontario Workers' Compensation Board, WCB, has the authority to impose fines on employers who fail to meet these safety standards. In 2018, the Ontario Court of Appeal ruled in a case where a company was fined heavily for failing to implement appropriate safety measures that result in death of an employee. This demonstrates the legal risk associated with neglecting worker safety. As reported by the Canadian Occupational Health and Safety Agency 2020, companies that fail to comply with occupational health and safety regulations face increased insurance premiums and potential lawsuits, which can ultimately affect their financial stability. And moreover, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has placed increased scrutiny on the public disclosure of workplace injuries, making non compliance an even more significant issue for publicly uh, traded companies. The failure to uphold legal responsibilities related to worker safety, particularly through violations of the Occupational Safety and Health Act (OHSA) and the workers' compensation laws, could lead to massive fines, loss of business licenses, and a permanent tarnishing of the company's reputation. As seen in the Foxconn suicide scandal, where company was publicly called out for poor working conditions. Ethical issue number one is duty of care. In addition to the legal issues, there's significant ethical concern regarding APC's treatment of its workers. The concept of duty of care is central to business ethics and refers to an organization's obligation to ensure that the safety and well-being of its employees is being the top priority. By failing to implement adequate safety measures, APC breaches this duty of care. The ethical principle of non-maleficence, which is rooted in the notion of do no harm, emphasizes the importance of organizations taking steps to minimize the risk to employees' health and safety. Companies are expected to actively prevent harm and provide a safe work environment. By neglecting worker safety, APC not only puts its employees at risk but also compromises the integrity of the organization. The International Labour Organization, in its 2020 report, highlights that companies with a strong ethical commitment to worker safety see improvements in employee satisfaction. Not only that, it improves productivity and also overall organizational performance. So, a failure to adhere to the principle of non maleficence not only harms the company's reputation but also affects long term business outcomes. Furthermore, an unsafe work environment can lead to decreased employee morale, productivity, and ultimately an increase in worker turnover. So let's talk about the number two, that's employment and hiring practices. So another issue within within this case study concerns the company's employment and hiring practices. APC has been found to discriminate against certain groups of workers, particularly those from specific ethnic backgrounds or regions. This practice raises both legal and ethical concerns. So, the legal issue regarding this would be the discrimination in employment. The company's discriminatory hiring practices violate the Canadian Human Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, and other personal characteristics. The Act explicitly requires that all individuals, regardless of their background, be treated fairly and equitably in the workplace. Discrimination in hiring, as seen in APC's policies, can lead to significant legal consequences. According to the Canadian Human Rights Commission 2021, companies that engage in discriminatory hiring practices may face lawsuits, fines, and reputational damage. Adding more to this, individuals who are victims of discrimination have the right to file complaints with the Commission and seek legal redress. The 2021 Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario ruling in a similar case shows that companies that engage in discriminatory hiring practices are not only liable to face fines but are also required to implement remedial measures such as rehiring individuals who were unjustly excluded from job opportunities and providing compensation for lost wages. These legal repercussions not only damage the organization's financial standing but also impact its public image. Procter and Gamble and the other Fortune 500 companies have faced public backlash and legal consequences due to discriminatory hiring practices that have been brought to light through lawsuits. So, the ethical issue number two is discrimination and unfairness. Ethically, APC's action raised concerns about unfairness in its hiring practices. The company's focus on personal characteristics such as nationality or marital status rather than on candidates' qualifications or abilities is unethical. This violates the ethical principles of justice and fairness, which demand that individual be evaluated based on their competencies rather than personal attributes. As Michael K. Johns discussed in his book Ethics in Business, The Moral Compass 2020, fairness in business decisions is essential to maintaining a positive and productive work environment. Discriminatory practices not only undermine the principles of fairness but also creates a division within the workplace, which leads to a toxic organizational culture. Moreover, a study published in the Journal of Business Ethics in 2020 revealed that companies that implement fair and equitable hiring practices enjoy greater diversity, which in turn leads to enhanced creativity, innovation, and overall organizational success. Companies with diverse teams have been shown to outperform their competitors, with research from McKinsey and Company indicating that companies in top quartile for gender and ethnic diversity were 35% more likely to have financial returns above their respective national industry medians. The third aspect is fiduciary responsibilities and financial integrity. Another significant ethical issue in this case involves the company's fiduciary responsibility and the potential for financial malfeasance. David, the ethical leader in the case, uncovers that APC has replaced its long-standing auditing firm with a smaller, less reputable one. This decision raises questions about the company's motivation and whether this change is intended to cover up potential financial mismanagement. So, the legal issue here is fraud and financial misrepresentation. One possible implication of switching auditing firms is the potential for financial fraud. So, APC's decision to hire a smaller local firm raises questions about whether the new auditors will turn a blind eye to questionable accounting practices. If APC is engaging in fraudulent financial reporting, it could face serious legal consequences. Under the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC guidelines and Canadian Securities Administrators regulations, companies are required to maintain transparency in their financial reporting. Misleading financial statements can result in significant legal repercussions, including fines, criminal charges, and loss of investor trust. Additionally, any attempt to conceal financial mismanagement or fraudulent activity could lead to class action lawsuits from investors and shareholders. A 2021 study published in the New York Times revealed that companies that engage in financial misrepresentation often face steep penalties, including multi-million dollar fines and increased regulatory scrutiny. In extreme cases, executives involved in fraudulent activities may face imprisonment for violations of financial reporting laws. In the Volkswagen emission scandal of 2015, for example, the company faced hefty financial penalties and the lost consumer trust after it was revealed that the company had manipulated emissions data to meet regulatory standards. Volkswagen paid 25 billion in fines and compensation, demonstrating the serious financial repercussions that come with fraudulent financial reporting. So, the ethical issue here is breach of trust from an ethical standpoint. That is the number three ethical issue. APC's action represents a breach of trust with its stakeholders, including employees, investors, and customers. So, trust is a fundamental component of any business relationship, and companies are expected to act in good faith, ensuring that their financial statements are accurate and transparent. As John William notes in Business Ethics in Practice 2020, the ethical foundation of business operations rests on trust, integrity, and accountability. So, when companies engage in financial malfeasance, they not only violate legal standards but also erode the trust that is essential to maintaining a long term relationship with stakeholders. So, the alternative actions for that ethical leader, David. So, what should have David done? So, when faced with a corporate ethical dilemma like the one presented in this case study, an ethical leader is required to make decisions that reflect the core values of the organization while addressing the interest of all the stakeholders involved. The leader must balance ethical responsibility with the practical realities of business operations. In this context, David, the CEO of APC, has several alternative courses of action to consider. So, these actions range from short term crisis management to long term strategic changes designed to foster an organizational culture of ethics. So, his alternative action number one would be immediate transparency and accountability. So, if we explain on that, one of the most crucial actions David could take is to immediately address the issue with full transparency. So, this would involve publicly acknowledging the mistake, clarifying the extent of the malfeasance, and taking accountability for company's actions. Transparency in this context means providing clear and honest communication to stakeholders. Employees, not only employees, customers, shareholders, and also to the public about the situation. For instance, if APC has been involved in unethical practices like fraudulent financial reporting, so David could hold a press conference or issue a statement that openly acknowledges the wrongdoing. The message would outline not only what went wrong but also the steps that will be taken to rectify the situation. This could include financial restitution for those harmed, a full internal investigation, and a commitment to making systemic changes to prevent future malfeasance. The importance of transparency and accountability has been well documented in academic literature. According to a study published in the Journal of Business Ethics 2020, so when companies face ethical scandals, those that embrace transparency and take accountability for their actions tend to experience a quicker recovery in terms of both reputation and customer trust. So, transparency builds credibility and helps to regain stakeholder confidence after a crisis. So, the number two alternative action the leader could have taken is implementing or can take is implementing stronger internal controls and auditing. Another alternative is for David to strengthen APC's internal control systems and auditing procedures. So this could involve instituting more frequent and rigorous internal audits to ensure financial transparency, as well as implementing stronger checks and balances on decision-making processes. Regular audits, particularly of financial transactions, would help identify any instances of financial malfeasance early, preventing larger crises in the future. Researchers have shown that strong internal controls are essential for preventing corporate fraud and ethical breaches. The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners (ACFE) published a report in 2021 that indicated companies with robust internal control frameworks detect and prevent fraud more effectively. An organization's ethical environment can be significantly improved by fostering a culture of accountability where processes are in place to ensure that decisions are made in accordance with both legal standards and ethical guidelines. In addition to audits, implementing whistleblower programs and anonymous reporting channels would allow employees at all levels to report unethical activities safely without fear of retaliation. Whistleblowers often play a critical role in exposing corporate malfeasance, as highlighted by a 2020 study from Ethics and Compliance Initiative, which found that whistleblowers were responsible for the detection of nearly 50% of corporate fraud cases. The third alternative is ethical leadership development and cultural transformation. David can also take a more proactive long-term approach by investing in ethical leadership development throughout APC. So it's one of the most effective ways to prevent future ethical issues is to ensure that all leaders within the organization at every level understand the importance of ethics in decision making and are equipped with tools to lead with integrity. This could involve training programs for existing leaders and potential future leaders on topics like ethical decision making, conflict resolution, and fostering an ethical corporate culture. Additionally, David could establish formal mentorship programs to guide younger managers in navigating complex ethical dilemmas. Ethical leadership training can be incorporated into the leadership development curriculum to reinforce the organization's commitment to integrity and transparency. So, in Harvard Business Review article 2020 emphasizes the importance of ethical leadership training in helping leaders make decisions that align with corporate values, especially in high pressure situations. Ethical leaders model behaviors that inspire employees to act in ways that benefit the organization as well as society, leading to a more cohesive and ethical company culture. So the fourth alternative action plan that he can use is revising corporate governance structures. An ethical leader should also consider revising or strengthening the company's corporate governance structures. Corporate governance refers to the system of rules, practices, and processes by which an organization is directed and controlled. A failure in the corporate governance often leads to malfesance, as there may be weak oversight mechanisms and a lack of accountability for senior executives. David could initiate a restructuring of the board of directors to ensure it's composed of members with diverse skills, experiences, and a strong commitment to ethical business practices. The board should play an active role in overseeing the company's strategic decisions, including matters of ethics, compliance, and corporate social responsibility. Moreover, establishing a dedicated ethics committee within the governance structure could also help in monitoring and enforcing ethical standards across the organization. So, this committee could be tasked with reviewing ethical concerns, evaluating corporate policies, and providing guidance on complex ethical dilemmas faced by the company. Research from the Corporate Governance Institute 2019 supports the idea that strong governance structures contribute to greater accountability and ethical behavior within organization. The study found that companies with effective governance systems were better positioned to manage risk, ensure compliance, and avoid ethical breaches. The alternate action number 5 that he could have used is engaging in corporate social responsibility. Another action David could take is to engage in corporate social responsibility initiatives aimed at restoring public trust and showing that APC is committed to making a positive impact on society. So these initiatives could include environmental sustainability programs, support for local communities, or partnerships with organizations that promote ethical practices in business. So by integrating CSR into the company's core values, David would not only enhance the company's reputation but also demonstrate a long-term commitment to ethical behavior. Studies show that organizations that invest in CSR are more likely to attract loyal customers, investors, and employees who align with company's values. According to a 2020 McKinsey and Company report on the CSR, companies that embrace social responsibility tend to see improved employee morale, customer loyalty, and brand equity. Furthermore, businesses that are seen as ethical corporate citizens often experience fewer regulatory challenges and greater long-term success. So let's talk about what are the preventive measures for future ethical dilemmas. In addition to the immediate actions David might take, there are several preventive measures that APC could adopt to mitigate future ethical dilemmas. So these strategies would focus on creating a stronger culture of ethics within the organization, ensuring that all levels of the organization, from leadership to entry-level employees, embrace the core values of integrity, fairness, and responsibility. And also the preventive let's talk about the preventive measures. And preventive measure the first preventive measure would be establishing a strong ethical framework. One of the first steps APC should take is to establish a clear and comprehensive ethical framework within the organization. This framework would define the company's commitment to ethical behavior, provide clear guidelines for employees to follow, and outline the consequences of unethical actions. The framework should be communicated at all levels of the organization with mandatory training for employees, particularly managers and executives, on the importance of corporate ethics and also how they are expected to behave. Research indicates that organizations with a strong ethical framework tend to have higher levels of employee engagement and job satisfaction. A study published by the Ethics and Compliance Initiative 2021 revealed that companies that regularly update and enforce their ethical policies report fewer incidents of misconduct and a greater sense of accountability among the employees. The study emphasizes that strong ethics programs result in better decision making and improved company performance over time. The second preventive measure that they could take in the future is ethical leadership training and development. So, it's an essential part of creating a culture of ethics, and it's to invest in leadership development programs focused on ethics. So, ethical leadership is not only about following the rules but also about setting an example for others to follow. So, leaders should model ethical behavior and encourage open discussions about ethical challenges faced by the organization. A 2020 article in the Harvard Business Review highlighted the importance of ethical leadership in business success. So, according to the article, ethical leaders who openly engage with their teams about difficult ethical decisions can foster a work environment that values transparency, integrity, and fairness. Ethical leadership training would ensure that leaders at APC are equipped with the necessary tools to make ethical decisions, communicate effectively with stakeholders, and guide the organization through complex ethical challenges, and so on. In addition to that, mentorship programs can be put in place where senior leaders can mentor junior staff members, teaching them how to navigate ethical dilemmas with a strong moral compass. This approach not only reinforces ethical behavior at every level but also ensures that ethical standards are sustained over time as employees grow within the organization. And moving on to another preventive measure is the whistleblower protection and transparent reporting mechanisms. So, organization need to foster an environment where employees feel safe and encouraged to report unethical behavior without fear of retaliation. So, there should be a well structured whistleblower program which can help prevent corporate malfeasance by ensuring that the employees can raise concerns without compromising their job security or personal safety. So, in 2020, the Whistleblower Protection Act in Canada was strengthened, offering increased protections for employees who report illegal or unethical behavior. And also, research shows that organizations with effective whistleblower programs experience greater detection of fraud and misconduct, leading to faster corrective actions and reduced financial losses. So, a study by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners (ACFE) in 2019 found that whistleblowers were responsible for reporting 43% of fraud cases, underscoring the importance of creating a safe avenue for employees to report concerns. APC should also implement a transparent reporting system where employees can anonymously report unethical practices without fear of reprisal. So, this can be supported by an ethics hotline or an online portal that allows employees to submit concerns directly to an external third party ethics officer, ensuring impartiality in handling the complaints. So, another preventive measure is regular audits and financial transparency. So, a significant cause of financial malfeasance in organizations is the lack of regular audits and financial transparency. To avoid potential fraud or financial misconduct, APC should implement regular and independent financial audits to ensure that all financial practices are in line with established ethical and legal standards. So, these audits should be performed by reputable third party auditing firms, and the findings should be shared with all relevant stakeholders, including shareholders, employees, and regulatory bodies. A study by Journal of Accounting and Economics in 2021 found that regular external audits not only help identify potential financial misconduct early but also contribute to greater transparency, which in turn enhances the trust of investors, clients, and customers. In addition, audits help organizations maintain compliance with financial regulations and prevent fraudulent activities. APC should also adopt practices that promote financial transparency, such as providing clear, honest, and accessible financial reports to stakeholders. This approach would not only help detect potential fraud but also demonstrate to stakeholders that the company is committed to maintaining ethical business practices. Another preventive measure is strong regulatory compliance programs. Finally, a key preventive measure is strengthening the company's regulatory compliance. That is, companies should ensure that they are not only compliant with local laws and regulations but also with international ethical standards. This includes adhering to labor laws, environmental regulations, anti corruption measures, and anti discrimination policies. So, APC should actively stay informed of the changes to relevant regulations and adjust its internal policies and practices accordingly. A well established compliance program should include regular updates on legal changes, training for employees on new regulatory requirements, and designated compliance officer to monitor adherence to regulations. According to the World Economic Forum 2020, companies that proactively addresses regulatory changes through compliance programs experience fewer legal challenges, better relationships with the regulatory bodies, and enhanced trust among customers and employees. This ultimately translates into stronger long term business performance. So, now let's talk about the organizational causes of ethical issues. Now that we have explored all the preventive measures, it's important to understand the organizational causes that can lead to ethical issues in the first place. So, these causes are often deeply embedded in the company's culture, leadership practices, and organizational structure. So, the first one is lack of ethical leadership. A major cause of unethical behavior in organization is poor leadership. So, ethical issues often arise when leaders fail to set the tone for ethical conduct, either through negligence or by actively encouraging unethical behavior. When leaders prioritize profits over people, fail to address ethical concerns raised by employees, or engage in unethical practices themselves, it creates an organizational culture where unethical behavior becomes very normalized. A study in the Academy of Management Review 2020 found that the leadership behavior is one of the most significant factors in determining an organization's ethical climate, and also companies with leaders who demonstrate ethical behavior and hold themselves accountable for their actions tend to have a more ethical workplace culture. On the other hand, companies with poor leadership often face higher rates of misconduct and ethical violations. So, the another cause would be weak organizational culture and lack of accountability. In some cases, unethical behavior stems from a weak organizational culture where there is insufficient emphasis on accountability, transparency, and ethical standards. So, if employees feel that their actions are not being monitored, or that there are no consequences for unethical behavior, they are more likely to engage in misconduct. So, this lack of accountability can be seen in organizations where employees and leaders engage in uh, questionable behavior without fear of being caught or disciplined. A report by McKinsey and Company 2021 highlighted that companies with stronger organizational cultures of ethics and accountability experience better decision making and higher employee morale. So, in contrast, companies with weak or toxic cultures tend to face more ethical dilemmas, which often result in legal consequences and a damaged reputation. Another cause is pressure to meet financial goals in many organizations. So, pressure to meet financial goals can lead to unethical behavior. So, when employees, especially those in sales, marketing, and finance departments, are pressured to meet unrealistic targets, they may resort to unethical practices such as misrepresenting products, falsifying financial statements, or engaging in fraudulent activities. This is particularly true in high stakes environments such as financial institutions and large corporations. So, according to the Journal of Business Ethics 2020, excessive pressure to meet targets can result in ethical lapses, particularly when employees feel their jobs or their bonuses are at risk. So, the companies must ensure that performance targets are set realistically and the employees are not incentivized to engage in unethical behavior to achieve these goals. So, in conclusion, what we can say is corporate ethics and malfeasance are critical issues that organization must address to ensure long-term success and sustainability. The case study involving APC highlights that the complex ethical and legal issues that arise when organizations fail to uphold their responsibilities to employees, even the investors, and to the wider community. Like, they can adopt preventive measures addressing organizational causes of ethical issues and ensuring strong leadership. Companies can foster a culture of ethics that benefits all the stakeholders. So, as ethical leaders, it's crucial to understand that the importance of transparency, accountability, and fairness in decision making. So, by prioritizing these values, organization can not only avoid ethical dilemmas, but also create an environment where employees feel empowered to act in accordance with their moral compass. Ultimately, ethical business practices lead to a more sustainable, profitable, and responsible corporate environment. That's all. Thank you. Have a nice day.